So the chestiest of all of the sports presentations clearly came from the team behind NBA Live. Sean O'Brien, who has been on the Press Row podcast multiple times and will be on again relatively soon, came on stage, shirt very untucked under the sport jacket, brought on the Hoop God, did some digital face scanning. He took some pointed shots at NBA 2K about online play and other things. A very, very, very bold, confident presentation from NBA Live, which is, as you know, people know who follow this stuff, is trails the NBA 2K series, the mighty NBA 2K series, significantly. I'm not going to say this is a make or break year for NBA Live because we thought last year was, and here they are again. Brian Wade, I don't necessarily subscribe to the theory that you do that this is the last shot. I think that NBA Live is not going anywhere no matter what. But regardless, it's the underdog, and they came out firing away. Ryan Lewis, I'm curious what your thoughts are on the overall NBA Live attitude on stage at EA's E3 presentation.
Well, I was pretty surprised, like how much time they got. Like how much of the presentation was actually devoted to them. You always have those awkward moments on those E3 in the press conferences where you bring some athlete or somebody up there to, like you have these executives and you have people that are like either like an athlete or someone that's like part of the gaming community, and it's just always weird. But in general, it's got to do so much. I mean, it's such an uphill battle for them. I'm glad that it's happening and that they are putting a focus on it. But I didn't see anything where I was like, oh man, I need to, NBA 2K is in trouble. I mean, they have Spike Lee this year, so I did think so. I think the thing that obviously, I mean, myself and probably quite a bit of the internet is looking at is like kind of this, the face scanning technology that they have. Kind of the weird big face that was sitting up on the stage from Hoop God. But like I really think if that works, if that's like intuitive and if it works how they showed how it works and they don't have the same kind of issues, they can start picking away at things that NBA 2K has tried and failed at. So online, the face scanning technology, if you can bring those in, you're already beating them on two places where they're kind of weak. So overall, I mean, I think it was a good effort by them. I mean, we'll have to see though, because we really haven't seen much as far as 2K16's gameplay and features go. I think we've seen actually more now of NBA Live, if I'm not mistaken. So, we'll have to see.
You bring up an interesting point, Brian. NBA Live getting significant time at the EA press conference. NBA 2K nowhere to be seen in Sony's press conference or in Microsoft's. I don't know if they're on the show floor. I believe that they are, but I don't know if it's 2K16 or 2K15. Your overall thoughts on the the very interesting juxtaposition. NBA 2K is the dominant game, but yet they're have a very meager presence at E3. NBA Live is fighting a very strong uphill battle, and here they are, being kind of bombastic on the show floor. Kind of an interesting scenario, don't you think?
Yeah, it's if you look at the two games though, really, it comes down to NBA 2K has nothing to gain by being at E3. They're not going to increase their sales. They're not going to increase awareness. They're pretty much at the top right now. They don't need to do it. They can save those bullets for later when they have the stage to themselves, figuratively speaking. So at the same time, you have NBA Live, which really has nothing to lose. Its sales can't go much lower. Its future is in doubt. It's the justification as far as to investors that EA can make about it is not very significant at this point because people have to buy Live in order to play Ultimate Team, and we've had this discussion before. If they want to make digital revenue, which is the reason why Live is still alive right now, is because it could down the line make a lot of money, right? Because NBA 2K is doing it right now. The NBA market could support two games that were successful if both games were on, if if consumers felt both games were on fairly level ground. But right now, people aren't buying live, so they're not getting the digital revenue they need to grow. And so this is really, I think, one last shot. If they're gonna go down swinging, do it. Go down swinging. And throw everything out there, and I think that's what we saw them doing with promises about online play. When Live had good online play for like NBA Live 10, Live 14 and Live 15 weren't exactly stellar online. So, and there's no way they can know for sure online is going to be great for Live 16 beforehand. So they can make promises, maybe knowing that, hey, if it doesn't turn out, then we're done anyway. So. And same with the face scan thing, where if it works, awesome, because that's a big component to these games now, is that attachment that you have with your own player. If it doesn't work like they showed, then I guess you're back in the 2K territory where theirs didn't work, but they still promoted it anyway. Actually, they promoted horrible looking faces, which was kind of an insult to people who struggled with that. So. It is interesting that one basketball game, that competing basketball games, one takes advantage of the stage and one doesn't, but they're in such different places now that it almost makes sense, because, like I said, Live has nothing to lose at this point, and 2K has nothing really to gain from that.
Ryan Lewis, you are not a member of the media. You are not a AAA video game developer. In this space, you're a consumer, right? You're a guy who makes a decision as to what games to spend your $60 on. Did anything that you saw from NBA Live make you think to yourself, I might give NBA Live a shot this year?
Not really. I mean, I don't know if I'm the best. So I do like basketball, but
we're Seattle guys.
Yeah. No, but I mean, I was a huge basketball fan growing up. But for that reason, I'm not gonna, I'm definitely not gonna buy 2 basketball games. I know that. And NBA 2K has been so strong for so long, and the mode that I care most about, they've put, frequency vibe guy. Like, I'm not gonna turn that
vibrations, man.
Frequency vibrations. I mean, that's like, I feel like they know me, because that's what I would go by if I was an NBA player. So yeah, I
actually checked a funny story on that. I actually checked when they announced that if the Twitter handle was available, and apparently you can't have Twitter handles that long. So I was going to register Freak Vibrations, but then it was just too much work.
It's like a Mark reference. Yeah.
Forget it.
Yeah, no, I mean, in general, it's weird, because I've kind of ignored Live a little bit. Like, I feel like they have such a long way to go, but from what I've seen of it, it looks good. And I feel like if you're just kind of an EA, you like how EA does stuff, they're getting better, and I feel like they're going to have something for you eventually. And as my understanding is that they're actually going to announce like another mode. And I think people think that's going to be some kind of a story mode. So we'll see. I mean, hey, if they can push other franchises in EA's, catalog, FIFA, to do some kind of more interesting modes even, I'm all for it. Because I know that they do share ideas between those games on some level. So, hey, if they can do that, if they can make some of the other games more interesting to me, I'm all about it.
Ryan, sorry, Rich. I was just going to say Ryan made a good. I think it wasn't a point he was making, but in a sense it was, because he was saying that he has to choose between the 2 basketball games. So NBA Live isn't in a situation where they can just look good and people will buy it because they're basketball fans. People have $60 and they have to make a decision between one or the other, and which one, even if Live is better, do they have a reason to switch or consider Live over 2K? And it's not even just the basketball games. I mean, this is something I'm going to write about coming up, but it's absurd, this late August to late September release window. Everything comes out there. We've got Madden, FIFA, NHL, Pro Evolution Soccer, NBA 2K16, NBA Live 16, Forza 6. Today they announced Tony Hawk, the new Tony Hawk game, on the same day as the 2 basketball games, a week after the 2 soccer games.
That EA Minions mobile game? You didn't mention that.
Oh, yeah. I mean, there's non-sports related games, right? Even in that window, because that's a very popular time to release games. So people are not just like, here's my $60. What basketball game am I gonna get? Here's my $60 or $120. What of this gigantic group of games am I going to get? And inevitably, NBA Live, on whether it's better or not, that's going to be at the bottom. And so even if it's a better game, does it do well enough to really show promise for the future? It's when they announced that they were going to release it on September 29th, which is technically the same day as NBA 2K, but really 4 days behind it. My first thought was they should have waited. And normally I wouldn't say release a game after your competitor. That's an awful idea in most cases. But they would have had a month window where people could have bought 2K and maybe had another reason to buy another basketball game a month later, or people had to make the decisions on all those games in September. And then you have another opportunity to get people at the end of October where the actual NBA season starts. It almost would have made more sense for them to hold it back a bit, as opposed to the last couple of years where they have released after NBA 2K, but that's only been by a week or two. A week or two is nothing. But a month, that allows people, that becomes a different decision in people's minds. And then you have a bigger window for a demo. You put out a free demo. You have the EA Access 5 days for people to try it out. Then people are more likely to buy that game, I think, if they had that buffer between everything else. Instead, you're jamming it in there, and it's inevitably, like I said, it's going to be the last option on people's lists of all these games that are coming out, regardless of how good it is.
Yeah, I've long been a proponent of spreading out the release date, just for a lot of reasons, but even just personally, right? Like, I only have a few hours a week to play games, and when all of a sudden you've got all of these games, inevitably something gets left behind. I think last year I probably played the most of every game simply because there was at least a decent amount of time between the time that Madden hit and then FIFA, and then with NHL not being its typical high gameplay time for me, I then spent more time with NBA 2K. And then Pro Evolution coming out in November, really, it was nice to have a new game and a game as great as Pro Evolution there. With all of these games, like you said, in that 5-week window, man, that is so difficult. I guess it's good in a sense that we got a lot of different stuff that we get to do, but it's almost hard to pick and choose. What are we going to do tonight? What game are we going to play? And inevitably things get left behind. So yeah, it makes it difficult on a lot of different levels. I would really love it if if FIFA were in July or August, and if Madden were in late July or early August, especially with no college football, it would just be better for everybody. And like you say, Brian, I think ultimately who this hurts the most is NBA Live, just because it could be the best basketball game ever made this fall, but because of the history and because of the avalanche of stuff coming in front of it, it puts itself in a tough position. Now, conversely, like you said, last year they released a little while afterwards, and the sales numbers were not good. So, I mean, as an executive in the company, you got to be like, okay, well, this is the way we did it last year, and the sales were bad, yet we know our game was improved, so we got to be day and date with NBA 2K, and it's just these are hard decisions to make. So it's definitely a tough spot. So, well, all right, Brian. One last question for you. What do you think that other new mode is? What's your gut tell you? And do you think that new mode that still is yet to be announced for NBA Live will potentially put more of a spotlight on it and give it a little bit better of a chance to make a dent?
Yeah, based on what I've seen and what I've heard over the years, I believe this to be a online multiplayer mode where you team up with people similar to EA Sports Hockey League or Crew Mode in NBA 2K or Adidas Live Run, which was in NBA Live 10, which was fairly popular for that game, where again you team up with, you get 4 of your friends or whatever, and you each pick a player and you go. They had an Adidas court and in one image, and they had an Adidas outdoor court in another. So I think it's something along those lines. And this is what EA should have done 2 years ago. because that's really a differentiator between them and 2K. Was at the time 2K didn't have one of those modes. They had dropped it. They had dropped crew out, and people were upset about that. And everybody was hoping NBA Live would come back in with it because NBA. There's a bit of a history lesson going through all this, but NBA Elite 11 was going to have EA Sports Basketball Association, which was similar to EA Sports Hockey League. So the same concept, essentially. Of course, that game got scrapped, and then NBA Live 13 was a different idea, a downloadable game that got scrapped. And then NBA Live 14, they had to build for the new systems, and they couldn't get in many of the deeper type of features in that year, or in NBA Live 15, obviously. So I think that's what they're going for, and I think it's a good direction to take. But again, a lot will depend on how does their online run. And how good is gameplay? Because, Rich, even in NBA Live 14, if online had run well, we wouldn't have wanted to play a bunch of online. But it is a very different experience when you control just one player. This was another reason why I thought it was so important for Live 14 or Live 15 to have it, is because you can mask some gameplay issues when you're just controlling the one player and everybody else around you is human-controlled. You're not dealing with AI issues. Which we saw in the first 2 years of the series and on the new generation. So I think it would have helped them more then, but if they can pull it off now, that's a big step towards making some progress.
All right, well, that is the official Hit the Pass E3 2013 look at NBA Live 15. So we'll get out of here on this. If you're an executive on stage at E3, tuck in your shirt.